Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Hugh Pugh, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert Dibble and Grub.
Pinch, punch, first of the month, this is the news.
That was very good. You know what else is very good? Becky Lynch's Twitter game.
You know what else is very bad?
Ronda Rousey's Twitter game. So these two have been involved in something of a social media war since their feud came together, and that kind of makes sense. As we spoke about yesterday, Becky is a real master of the social media game. She's great. She does a great job of furthering her character and furthering her storylines. But her and Ronda have gotten kind of spicy in recent days. I'm just going to read you a couple of Ronda's recent tweets. They're not good before we start.
Warning.
So in response to Becky, she said, F word? You mean fake? Fake like your nonsensical BS armbar that doesn't even work and just looks like you're holding the DICK you wish you had. Not the sharpest insult in the book, and she destroys kayfabe by calling the move fake.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make you look like Ellsworth, so...
Yeah, good. The next one, Rebecca Quinn, again, kayfabe gone. I don't care what the script says, alright, Vince Russo. I'm beating the living SHIT out of you the next time I see you. So those are terrible. Those are fourth wall destroying, alternate universe destroying nonsense from someone who has always had a really bad Twitter game going all the way back to her UFC. But the real story here is the WrestleVotes are reporting that WWE are not best pleased with some of the language being used.
They do not like effing and jeffing on Twitter.
They do not, and they also don't like Ronda Rousey tearing the kayfabe world apart by calling her Rebecca Quinn and saying her finishing move is fake.
It's really interesting, this, because can you imagine the pop? Adam Cleary pointed this out earlier on. Imagine the pop.
I'm about to counter this.
When Becky puts the disarmer on Ronda at WrestleMania and she has to sell for it.
But imagine how stupid Ronda Rousey is going to look when she has to sell for a move she's just called stupid and fake.
It's a really weird
idiotic
state of affairs. What do you think of it all?
This is really terrible chat. Like, I love Ronda Rousey. I've been a big proponent of her since she came into WWE. Her debut was one of my favourite matches of the year. I think she's great. I have stuck up for her when others have criticised her, particularly when it comes to promos and characters. This is terrible. This is bad crack. It's just base level playground nonsense from someone who needs to play the wrestling game on social media, and I do not think it'll work either.
She not learned anything from the way WWE booked her, i.e. not a great deal of promo time, more just going in there and destroying people in the ring. Look, let Becky own the Twitter game.
Yeah.
You're not going to come back. She sent a tweet the other day that was 6 days after Becky tweeted something. That's not a comeback.
No. Just don't reply.
Don't reply. Don't tweet anything. Just carry on with your life and then keep kicking ass on Monday Night Raw and get us excited for the inevitable triple threat at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed by all this. It's very Russo, isn't it? Like the whole kayfabe stuff, and in terms of just outbursts. Like, of course, it's all done to further the feud. I don't believe that Ronda Rousey hates Becky Lynch or Rebecca Quinn, as she's calling her. But it's just not good crack. Can we just go back to this being good? That'd be nice.
Guys, if you have to resort to swearing, you're not smart enough. Exactly. I say that as a man who swears quite a lot.
I swear every second sentence. So.
Right, let's move on to our second story of the day. And an NXT call-up to the main roster has apparently been cancelled.
That's the cancel noise.
Exactly. As reported by PW Insider, Candice LeRae's expected call-up to the main roster has either been delayed or cancelled, depending on who you believe. She's meant to be wrestling on SmackDown this week, but apparently that has now been nixed, and she is going to be sticking with NXT for the foreseeable future, and just developing her character a little bit more, getting more matches under her belt. I think, considering the speed in which that we've seen all these NXT call-ups recently and they're flooding the main roster, this is no bad thing.
No, I think this is secretly a good thing. So PW Insider broke the story last week that Candice might be coming up to work the house show with a view to joining the televised main roster. This has now been cancelled as reported by the same source. This is a good thing, I think, because look at Lacey Evans and Nikki Cross. Lacey Evans is marching down to the ring and doing nothing. Nikki Cross is just doing nothing. She's not even playing with Nikki anymore. Candice hasn't done much in NXT. Like, it's a shame because she's really good. I think anyone who's seen her before or seen her in the Mae Young Classic knows that she's excellent. She's wrestled 2 televised matches in NXT since August or something like that. It's crazy. She barely works. She's kind of like just this supporting figure with black lipstick in this Johnny Gargano-Tommaso Ciampa storyline, which makes sense from a narrative standpoint, but I think we just like to see her wrestle more, and perhaps with like Evans and Cross gone, she'll be able to fill a bigger role in NXT, maybe even move up to the same level of prominence as the likes of Io Shirai, Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler, the Horsewoman.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, people who watch NXT are big fans of hers and would like to see her on the main roster, but there's no real need for her to move up to the main roster, especially right now. You could even argue that just delaying it to post-WrestleMania would be beneficial for her. Like you say, more matches, more time spent down there. I think there's no real rush. The women's division is not struggling right now.
No.
The SmackDown women's division has kind of been completely forgotten, but in terms of women's wrestling, the inaugural women's tag team champions are just lighting up the show everywhere they go, and of course, Ronda, Becky and Charlotte, Twitter aside, are dominating the scene.
Yeah, they really are. That is the mainline program. We're going to get Asuka versus Lacey Evans, probably. That's going to suck. But, you know, women's wrestling's in a good place.
It blows my mind, this, that people are like, yeah, they're going to push Lacey Evans. What? She shows up, waves and buggers off again. She's just 2019's Eva Marie.
But not as
with less
fun.
heat.
Yeah, with no heat. Like, it's just terrible. Anyway, speaking of things that are not terrible, this is the opposite of terrible. This is a good segue. Hiromu Takahashi of New Japan Pro Wrestling broke his neck in a horrific in-ring accident on the July 2018 show, G1 Supercard special in G1 Special, not Supercard. That's the goddamn MSG show. I should know this. I watch New Japan, believe it or not. He broke his neck wrestling Dragon Lee, who hurt him off a botched Phoenix Plex. He's been out ever since. There was even talk in the aftermath that he may have to retire, which was really, really disheartening because he's such a charismatic, high-energy, high-risk wrestler, which is perhaps why an injury like this was perhaps inevitable for a guy like him. But he's on his way back. This has been reported by Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Takahashi is set to make a surprise appearance at an upcoming New Japan show. I guess it's not a surprise anymore. At which he will announce that he is ready to go. This is great news because the injury, obviously, there's never a good time to suffer a broken neck, obviously. No. But the guy was really helping bring New Japan's junior heavyweight division up to a level, not quite at the same level, but towards a level it had not been at since Jushin Thunder Liger was the top dog decades ago. He is one of the most popular wrestlers in the company, one of the most exciting wrestlers on the planet. He's gonna have to adjust his style. This is a guy who takes a lot of big bumps, major top rope moves, landing on his head, dropping all over his neck, really risky stuff. He's gonna have to change that. But here's hoping he comes back, you know, a smarter, safer worker without sacrificing too much of what made him special.
Yeah, perfect timing for New Japan with all the changes that have been going on recently. And as you said, just a phenomenal wrestler who we cannot wait to see back in the ring. Really talented. And just great news. Whenever anyone overcomes a really, really serious injury, it is great to see them back in the ring. And speaking of serious injuries, a guy who suffered a major one a while back has suffered another one. Tommaso Ciampa suffered an injury, which is the reason why you may have...
The real reason why
DIY was sort of missing on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Johnny Gargano was Shawn Michaels' date to Ric Flair's birthday instead. Yes, Tommaso Ciampa suffered an injury recently, which is the whole reason why Raw had to be slightly rewritten. There was apparently meant to be a tag match involving DIY with the Revival on commentary. That was obviously scrapped because of Tommaso Ciampa's injury, although it doesn't sound that serious.
Yeah, it's a neck problem, which always gives you pause. Neck stuff. However, he's going to work through it apparently until TakeOver, where it's expected that he'll wrestle Johnny Gargano. We don't know that for sure. I don't read the spoilers. Please don't spoil it. No. After which he will take some time off, get the thing healed up and sorted out. So it's obviously something that WWE aren't immediately worried about, just something that needs care and attention. The Raw plan thing is interesting because if they did have to rewrite this match, it was supposedly going to be Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano against Ricochet and Aleister Black, Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins on one other undetermined team with the Revival at ringside. That suggests #1 contenders match to me. That suggests that maybe DIY had been, given the Ricochet and Black beat the Revival this week, maybe DIY had been earmarked for a title shot.
Who knows?
Either way, that's all speculation, just us being Bellends, but you know.
It's very interesting. I do hope the Revival hold on to those Raw Tag Team Championships.
I hope they have them forever.
I do hope they do this match maybe next week, not just for the match, but for the Revival on commentary, who I can just tell would have an absolute whale of a time just laying into the commentators.
Shooting on Hawkins and Ryder.
Right, let's move on to today's Twitter questions. Don't forget you can tweet them at us at WhatCulture WWE. Let's start with a question from Carnage Asada and the Foggy Bunch.
Okay.
Great name. Who says, do you think that any other WWE titles could benefit from being attainable on multiple brands, like the women's tag team titles? Maybe have the US title on 205 Live for some David versus Goliath angles, or use the NXT North American title as a call-up plot device.
I think that's pretty interesting. I'm not too sure about passing more things between Raw and SmackDown. I think both of those brands already have enough belts. But the idea of the US champion dropping down to 205 Live is pretty interesting, because that belt barely gets featured on SmackDown. Obviously, they had a good match this week, but R-Truth hadn't appeared in a month before that. It's kind of crazy. That's a smart idea. The NXT North American thing as a call-up tool, perhaps, but I kind of like that positioned as a strictly developmental mid-card belt.
I agree.
And whoever has that, then they can progress onto the big NXT belt.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the US and Intercontinental Championship should definitely stay individually to Raw and SmackDown, but something like a Cruiserweight Championship match, which, as we've seen, if you've ever watched basically any pre-show over the last 6 months, Buddy Murphy is tearing it up with whoever he faces. If on a big Monday Night Raw, you know, maybe a post-pay-per-view Monday Night Raw, if they just said, you know what, we're going to have a Cruiserweight Championship match, you're going to have a lot of eyes on the product. We've all seen the amount of great that Buddy Murphy can do in the ring. He needs more showcasing for me, and that's the ideal thing, the ideal way to do it.
Why can't you wrestle Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight title in a random episode of SmackDown? Finn Balor on Raw, there's so many options.
And it's so easy there. You have a great, 15-minute match, and if you don't want to make Rey Mysterio look bad by losing, or Buddy Murphy have to drop the title, just have Andrade come in and there's the development of that storyline. Really good. Right, next question comes from Fat Momoa, regular contributor. As always, sending a photo of Gangrel with his question. Thank you very much for that.
Love Gangrel.
He says, obviously the KO move was to give Kofi the Mania match for the title. We're talking about, obviously, the WWE Championship match between Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan after Kofi was removed this week. How much do you think this improves Kofi's chances of actually winning the belt now?
I don't think that Kofi Kingston's winning the belt at all. I don't think, this story is great. The work he's put in recent weeks is great. But I just don't see him as the guy to lead the brand. I think a great story would be him winning the belt at WrestleMania, having a month-long title reign, and then dropping it back to Bryan. Because I think Bryan's the long-term money guy. With
100%.
He's got the gimmick with the hemp belt that he's been smoking and all this stuff. It's just too much of a stretch for me to believe they're going to take it away from Bryan for any length of time this year, particularly to give it to a guy like Kofi, who is certainly, in terms of work rate and popularity and just being really good, he's deserving. But he's been a mid-carder for his entire career, and I don't see them doing it.
I think his chances have improved, but they've improved from about 1% to 2% of him actually winning the belt of Mania. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. They may even do the big New Day split angle at WrestleMania to get all the eyes on it, but they deserve such a big location for such a major split, of course. But, yeah, I don't think he's going to win the title there. I think going close would be fantastic, and as I've mentioned before, Daniel Bryan holds the title for forever, and then drops it either to a Finn Balor, perhaps. I think they could do big money with building towards those to a major big pay-per-view. Maybe something not Survivor Series, because that wouldn't work, because they do champion versus champion. SummerSlam, but maybe later. Rumble, solid. But also, I think
Roadblock, end of the line.
I think Kofi could benefit more from being a Money in the Bank winner and then cashing that in. I think you get a far bigger pop, and I think
opportunistic.
The story of him going close and then finally winning the big one would be fantastic. But today's final question comes from Zombie Claw on Twitter, who asks, with Vince apparently thinking his roster is stale and devoid of stars lately, I don't know whose fault that is, have you heard anything that would indicate we may see the end of WWE's long-reigning heel 50-50 booking?
No, I've heard nothing to that effect. I think that this kind of highlights the stupidity of Vince's comments on that, because it's things like 50-50 booking that have left him with no stars. and yet it's something I can never see him abandoning. It's just how they book. They want everyone to appear on the same level, apart from like Brock Lesnar and maybe like Ronda Rousey. But that's the problem. Like, instead of making everyone feel like a star up here, they've made everyone feel like a mid-carder. And it's primarily down to things like 50-50 booking and scripted promos. But it's so dyed in the wool. They've been doing it for so long that the only way I see them ever changing that is when Triple H gets the pencil.
Despite the amount of times on voiceovers that I moan about Vince McMahon, I am a perpetual optimist. And I think some may argue that, look, this is like a broken clock. It's right twice a day. Look, we've just happened to have a really good angle with Batista, a really good angle with obviously Roman Reigns returning, and a fantastic feel-good storyline there on Monday Night Raw this week. I'm going to look past that. I think Raw was one of the best we've had in years this week. And I think with the returning Bruce Pritchard, I don't think that's just a coincidence that all of this has happened at once. I don't think we're going to see the end of 50-50 booking, but I am hoping that with Bruce there, as we saw this week, the way they get around 50-50 booking is going to hopefully improve a little bit more.
Fingers crossed.
We live in hope. Right, let's move on to today's and finally, and it relates to what we talked about at the start of today's show. It is, of course, Becky and Ronda going at each other, and a surprising person has interjected himself into this storyline. Look, we're all talking about being a triple threat. Maybe it will be a triple threat match with a special guest introducer, a ringside enforcer, maybe even a special guest referee in Tommy Wiseau. Oh, hi, Mark. Yes, he has tweeted Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey saying, "Tell Vince McMahon I will introduce your WWE match." God. And Becky Lynch even replied, "Oh, hi, Mark. Tommy Wiseau meets Ronnie Wiseau." I did not kill her. I did not.
I mean, I'd be all for that if Tommy Wiseau wasn't a low-key scumbag. Watch The Disaster Artist. Not a nice guy.
Isn't he?
No, he's kind of, maybe, no.
You're tearing me apart, Ronnie!
I mean, The Room is like 5-star classic, obviously, but, you know.
Well, let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And tweet us your Twitter questions at WhatCultureWE. Or actually, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray.
You can follow our beautiful editor, Phil Chambers, at Phil My Chambers. And you can follow me at Adam Wilmore. My thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. And we will see you soon.
Very enthusiastic, that way.
Yeah, I'm feeling good today. Yeah, have a good day, people.